We turn our attentions now to the final team in the AFC West as part of our Irish NFL show off-season early preview of the season ahead, and we're looking at the Los Angeles Chargers. And Brian, the Chargers were one of the most talked about teams in the off-season. A lot going on there, obviously, with Jim Harbaugh back in the league, leaving as a national champion with Michigan when he left college football. We managed to catch up recently on the show with Joe Alt, their number one overall draft pick, who went 5 to them from Notre Dame, who's very excited about his landing spot and really looking forward to getting stuck in. And one of the things he was saying that he found a positive was he's transitioning to the NFL at the same time the head coach is transitioning to the NFL, which carries certain advantages and certain disadvantages. But Harbaugh's a winner.
Yeah, he's a winner, but he carries a lot of baggage with him, Connor. Like we've seen, like I reflect on the night in which we did with Peter King. It was a fantastic evening in Dublin when Peter came over and was our special guest. And he spoke about his good time in San Francisco in terms of, he produced a good team. They went to a Super Bowl. They lost, obviously, to his brother's team in the Ravens. And they couldn't get it done the following time when they came back against the Falcons. But there was also this conversation, as much as people enjoyed playing for him, there was also kind of a sense of relief when he left the 49ers and they could move on, because there's just so much heavy hitting and a certain kind of temperament around the head coach. It'd be interesting to see how he kind of balances having been in the college game for so long and managing a very younger dynamic of person and people against now back to manage quite a vast, because like you look at the Chargers, they've got a lot of experienced players there, and it'd be interesting to see how he kind of reverts back to coaching in the league. And obviously, that is there going to be a clash at any stage, because he's very much a head coach. You see what you see is what you get, and he puts his heart on the sleeve. And I imagine we'll see that come week one when they're at home against the Raiders. You're right with the Chargers. Every year we have this team. This is a team this year that could make waves. I don't think we're actually in that position this year. I think we're more in the position. But let's see what this team makes of having Jim Harbaugh as their head coach, and can he bring back a battle-tested team? We spoke about, Colin always refers to the Spursy comment from Roy Keane, and we've been suggesting that's been the Chargers for the last 4 to 5 years. I don't see that this year. I think we might see a very different team, a more stellar team. Whether they have enough to put themselves in the playoffs this year, I'm not too sure. They've lost a lot of players as well. We talk about experienced players, but they have lost your Austin Eckler's and Williams, of wide receivers, moved on. Obviously, he's had a lot of injuries. We spoke time and time again about the Keenan Allen trade. It's like they're trying to reduce the age gap within the team, but I don't know if they have enough to really challenge the Chiefs and certainly be in position to make the playoffs. But I think we are in for a more entertaining year, whether we like it or not. Whether you like Jim Harbaugh or not, I think we're certainly in for a more intriguing, interesting year. It'd be interesting to see how Justin Herbert develops under Harbaugh. That for me, that's the most intriguing piece to come.
And Kieran, that is the thing that everybody's watching, because if you look at, we talked about the Chiefs as part of our preview a little bit earlier, and obviously they managed to, because they put their faith in Patrick Mahomes, and justifiably so, they can fill in the bit parts around him. The Bills are doing something similar with Josh Allen. I don't know if Justin Herbert is in the same bracket as those two players, though, when the Chargers are expecting an awful lot of him, having gotten rid of all the weapons that Brian just mentioned there. That they're asking him to do a lot with relatively little this year.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, Herbert's had a great couple of years. I mean, he had over 5,000 yards a couple of years ago, and he was on pace. I mean, he had over 3,000 yards by the time he was injured in week 13 last year. So he was on pace for over 4,000 yards as well. Yeah, they lost a lot on offense, but like Brian said with Harbaugh, he comes in with a whole bunch of expectations about how things are supposed to be done. And when he took over with the Niners over 10 years ago, he took a team from Jim Tomsula, and he had a team that had Frank Gore, and he had a team who could run the ball. And we saw with Michigan last year, they run the ball a lot. Will Herbert be used as much with the arm when they've got the running game going on? I mean, they've got they picked up J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards this year. So, I mean, I'm really looking to see the Chargers run the ball a lot more. Herbert, he's had his detractors. Is that kind of not soft, but that kind of, is he ready for the big time, the big moments? My mind goes back to the Jacksonville game in January 23, the playoff game, when the Chargers just capitulated. Every bad decision you could possibly make was made by the Chargers that night, and Herbert made his fair share of them as well. I mean, I think the biggest mistake the Chargers made was keeping Staley around last year, but it's going to be a huge year for Herbert. I think he's going to be okay with Harbaugh. I think that's his kind of coach. Just kind of tell him, similar to what Harbaugh did with JJ McCarthy. This is what we're going to do. This is what you're going to be limited to. This is what you can excel with. they're going to pound the ball a huge amount. J.K. Dobbins is going to be coming back after a year off from injury. So you got two really good, solid, experienced NFL running backs that are going to be running the ball a lot. But the main thing with the Chargers, the main thing they have to do is change that perception. When you think of the Chargers, not a lot comes to mind. You think of that beautiful SoFi Stadium, but every time they have a home game, it almost feels like a road game. When Dallas comes, it's a 70%, Dallas crowd. When the Giants play, or whenever any of the big teams, Green Bay, any of those teams, they are the majority in the stands. And that's the thing. That's what Harbaugh's really got to start working on. Change that kind of mentality. I read something a couple of days ago about one of the Chargers strength and conditioning coaches. They're trying to change that image and trying to make them, toughen them up and trying to give them a different public image. I mean, you got Bosa and Khalil Mack there, but you need something to kind of change that perception that, this is LA. We got a football team here and we got a beautiful stadium. Come out and see us and don't let the opposing teams pack out the seats. So they've got a lot of work to do in Charger land. I mean, Harbaugh, that's the thing. Harbaugh inherited a good team with the Niners. He's not inheriting a great roster right now. Yes, they got Bosa and Khalil Mack, but Bosa's only played 14 games in the last 2 years. Khalil Mack is up there closing up in the mid 30s, so he hasn't got a lot left either. You picked up Bradley Bozeman in the draft, and you got DJ Chark out there too. But similar to the Broncos, not a huge amount of standouts on offense. I think it's going to be a tough season for them again. And Harbaugh's gonna, we're going to see a lot of shots of Harbaugh on the sideline, sweat brow and taking the glasses off and looking up to the sky. So it's going to be a tough gig for him. This is going to be, I think Herbert will be fine, but I think it's going to be a tough one for Harbaugh to get through this one.
No, Kieran touched on the playoff meltdown of a couple of years ago, which has cast a pretty long shadow over this team. And one of the issues raised at that time, I suppose, was leadership, particularly from Joey Bosa and maybe letting the team down in a big spot. It's not all on Jim Harbaugh or Justin Herbert to carry this team. Like, they need other players to step up. Like, they have some very talented players, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, who haven't really performed anywhere near what you would have expected of them, particularly last year.
No, absolutely. Look, I mean, over the last few years, the Chargers have had a lot of talent in there, but, for whatever reason, it just hasn't kind of clicked for them. And you mentioned it there. This is where experienced players, you mentioned, talk about Bosa, and Mack as well. Like, this is where these guys need to step up and really drag those players through. And I think they're going to be needed this year more than ever, because the boys have covered it again. I mean, we're at the start of something here, but I think this is going to be a tough season for the Chargers coming up. They don't have a lot in terms of what they're putting around the quarterback in terms of receivers. I know they brought in Lad McConkey, who, we'll see how he does. Quinton Johnston hasn't really stepped up as a wide receiver. So it's going to be tough there. Again, Kieran was talking about, there's going to be a lot of running the ball. We know Greg Roman came in. That's what he does. The two running backs they brought in have both worked with him before, so there'll be a bit of experience there, with that system and what they're going to do. But yeah, look, this team, it's going to be a tough one, like the Broncos. Probably not as bad as the Broncos, but it's going to be a tough season for them this year. And those players that they have who have experience are going to need to step up. In terms of what Brian was talking about in Harbaugh and how long it takes him to kind of wear out his welcome. Generally, it takes 3 or 4 years before he goes. So it'll be interesting to see how long it takes him to actually shape this team to get what he wants, and then see how long he kind of lasts after that. But this year they've got a bit of work, and we'll see how it goes for them, because they have some good players scattered about, but it just doesn't look like they have enough.
All right, that concludes our Irish NFL show preview of the AFC West. You can check out all our other divisional off-season previews wherever you get your podcasts. And do remember to like and subscribe to the Irish NFL show so other people can find us, and so we can boost the community and get more people involved in the action.